Politics. I am Kayode Okikyolu. On the news this hour, President Muhammadu Buhari spearheads Nigeria's conference diplomacy as it looks to Russia as an ally in tackling Nigeria's security and economic challenges. Nigeria's ambassador to Russia, Professor Steve Ugba, joins us live from Sochi. An APC-PDP name election campaign squad ahead of the Bayelsa governorship poll as Governors Abubakar Badaru and Bala Mohammed lead the campaign fronts, respectively. And we'll take you to the National Assembly, where ministers continue with budget scrutiny of the 2020 draft appropriation bill in both upper and lower chambers. Well, you're welcome to the show. We begin in Sochi, Russia, where President Muhammadu Buhari is attending the inaugural Russia-Africa Summit. Well, the Economic Forum and Summit, which began about 4 hours ago with plenary sessions on uncovering the potential for cooperation and introducing Russia to Africa, has in attendance over 30 African heads of state and government, including the chairman of the African Union and President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The summit is being co-chaired by President Vladimir Putin, who earlier on presented a keynote address at the opening alongside the African Union chairman. President Muhammadu Buhari and the Russian president will later meet at the Nigeria and Russian bilateral meeting, and that's today. And the Nigerian leader will make a statement at the summit tomorrow. That's Thursday, October the 24th. Now, other participants at the summit that will showcase Russian interests and investment potential in Africa include businessmen, experts, investors, leaders of major sub-regional associations and organizations. Well, an African business forum, which will bring together African and Russian business leaders, will also be held during the event in order to enhance Russian investments in Africa and promote African business interests in the host country. Now, about 250 Nigerian business interests will be participating in the forum. So Nigeria's ambassador to Russia now joins us live via Skype from Sochi. Professor Steve Ugba, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think it's safe enough to say good afternoon because I see it's about 2 p.m. Right there. But then it appears as though, well, this Russia-Africa summit, yes, we know it's the inaugural summit, but then we also like to know that why is there this sort of renewed interest in Africa and by extension Nigeria coming from Russia?
Well, thanks for having me on your show. We've had a relationship with the Russian Federation for the longest time, dating back to the 60s, when they were one big, huge country called the Soviet Union before the split. And right now, Russia is trying to recapture whatever it is that she left behind in Africa undone. That is forging very strong relationships that existed during the Soviet era, before the breakup of the Soviet Union, that now has Russia standing on its own and trying to assert itself on the international scene. So, you know, several other countries are taking the initiative of penetrating Africa, and we know the Chinese influence in Africa right now. We've known about the West, the United States, Britain, Germany, and the big powers all over Africa. Russia felt that they were being left behind, and we feel that Russia is also left behind. And our ambassadors here, African ambassadors, worked very hard to convince the Russian government to take Africa much more seriously, culminating in this historic event that you're all witnessing now, the first Russia-Africa Summit and Economic Forum.
Right. So I want to believe you at the plenary earlier on today. So I'd like you to tell us, what was the atmosphere like and what sense did you get from that meeting?
Well, this is the first time that the Russians are doing this, and it is a learning experience for everyone. But I can tell you that there was electricity in that room, in the hall. People were quite enthusiastic about being there. There were lots and lots of participants, and almost all the heads of states and governments that were invited from Africa attended. And we had some presentations from some speakers on themes that are supposed to bind or hold the economic forum together. So I think it was something quite exciting, and I think we were very happy to have our President Muhammadu Buhari, present at the forum, and with the speech and the welcoming speech by President Putin, which gave us a lot of hope that Russia does indeed have some huge plans. And I can tell you that one of the things that we took out of his speech, which he was sure to emphasize, was the fact that the president of Afri-Exim Bank said that Russia's interest or Russia's investments in Africa had almost doubled in over 3 years. And that was progress. When President Putin came, he said, even though the investments, Russian investment doubled, that he was not satisfied, and that Russia was going to invest more in Africa, which I think is something very, very positive that we all should latch onto.
Okay, now speaking of the takeaways, from this summit, then there are reports that Nigeria is planning to purchase weapons, tanks, and other security equipment from Russia. Can you confirm these reports?
Well, Nigeria is a sovereign state, and Nigeria will do anything and everything possible to protect its territorial integrity and also to secure peace within the country itself. So Russia is just one country, and there are several other countries that Nigeria is free to go and source for anything, equipment, and you name it, that will assist us in securing our land. So Russia is not really that unique in that aspect. But the Ministry of Defense would be better placed to answer that question much more definitively than I. I'm here to facilitate. I'm here to see that whatever it is they want to do is done correctly, is done well, to its logical conclusion. But Russia is by no means an exclusive source for anything, military or otherwise, for Nigeria. We've procured, products from all over the world, and we're trying to ramp up our engagement with Russia in all aspects of business, in all aspects, starting from social, education, science and technology, even exploiting our hydrocarbons reserves. We are interested in partnering with anyone who will help us develop our motherland.
The president's spokesman earlier on said this is meant to be a win-win situation for both Nigeria and Russia. So at the end of this summit, what are the takeaways that will indicate to you that, we had a good outing as a nation?
Well, Russia is a country that also has its own development plans. So does Nigeria. We are trying to protect our own interest, and Russia also is trying to protect its own interest. And both of us working together, we can fulfill our own, whatever it is we're engaged in will be mutually beneficial for both Nigeria and for Russia. So my takeaways are that at the end of this summit, we should be able to, either on a government level or even on a private level, sign agreements, sign MOUs, make commitments to each other in terms of fully engaging the Nigerians, either at the governmental level or at the private level. And like your opening statement said, there are over 250 Nigerian businesses represented here at this forum. And we expect intense business-to-business relationships, business-to-business negotiations, as well as the 4 ministers that are here, the 3 governors that are here, and a slew of other governmental officials that are here. We expect there to be movement or traction on the government front, as well as movement or traction on the private front. So we expect a lot of things to happen.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, we shall be, cataloging and listing all the MOUs, all the agreements that have been agreed upon, and what Russia itself has committed to either Nigeria or to Africa. I think that will come to the limelight as soon as this conference is over.
Well, so we wish Nigeria's delegation to this summit the very best. We've been speaking with Nigeria's ambassador to Russia, Professor Steve Ugba. He joins us live from Sochi. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.